So the influence of the music back then, the bass music especially, to nowadays in the mainstream, how do you see it influenced? Whether it's with the quad or the bass drop, whether it's with scratching, or whether it's with just the tempo of the song with the kind of Planet Rock beat, like, you know, the Black Eyed Peas type of stuff. You know, it's taken a wave, and a lot of people don't know that, you know, it came from down here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, Will.i.am, he's just heavily influenced by the Miami bass sound. So, you know, I mean, he samples, he uses, you know, like Fix It in the Mix, and of course he went and took the Afro-Rican, you know, borrowed, you know, that vibe for their record. So, you know, to me, everything stems or comes from, you know, if you're going to get a tempo up to like 120, 130, you're probably talking Miami bass.
That's a southern thing. That's a Miami, and that's a southern thing.
Yeah.
You know, that no doubt about it, because, you know, even though we all say, yeah, Planet Rock influenced that, yeah, but that kind of fell out of favor really quick, all that stuff in New York.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because when hip hop put its stranglehold on it, it was slower, head nodding beats,
Oh, yeah.
you know, with something to be said, you know. And as far as the up tempo stuff, South Florida has always had up tempo music.
It's the party.
Even
vibe.
when I was a kid and it was R&B stuff, you know, if it was a national hit that was dun dun dun, fine, great. It might have been top 10 or whatever. Down here, if the B-side was faster, that's what
the
people
one
were
that would
dancing
blow
to.
up.
Yep.
In the clubs, in the
Yep.
streets.
What do you think? It's the heat, the sex drive? What is it?
I think it's the heat. I mean, you know,
I think you know what? It's probably partially the red light district, and the, you know, the strip clubs and everything right down to. I mean, I touched upon it a second ago. You know, I think Jamponi had a lot to do with it. You know, the fast-paced DJing and talking over records as they're being mixed. And I think that contributed to ongoing saga, you know, keep that flow going. And, you know, with, of course, you know, Luke and that whole movement, they just kind of blew it up. You know, it became, you know, the global sound that kind of sparked in Miami.
Right.
When I was saying the heat, it's the heat in terms of pretty much you can do everything outside 24/7, 12 months out of the year here, as opposed to up north. And I think it ties in also with sports. You have all the, you know, a lot of football players are from here because it's warm. They're out, they're playing, you know, it's, so when I say the heat, it's because you can be outside, you can do stuff, you know, you're not going to be locked in the house for a couple of weeks because it's snowing. Okay, so the heat keeps everything at a faster pace, if I'm making any sense.
The tropics.
The tropics.
Let's just call it the tropics.
The tropics,
We're close to the
because
Caribbean.
it's that way with everything else. It's not just the music, it's sports.
Yeah, but you're taking a up tempo beat and then you're adding a bass quad to it. I mean, when you're mixing that down, I mean, there was no other states or no other style coming out with that bass sound. I mean, after Miami started putting more and more out, then you got your Joe Cooley's from California, you know, doing everlasting bass. Cash Money Crew back then, remember they had dropping stuff, the bass. Some New York records dropping some 808, right?
Oh yeah, well Rick Rubin.
Yeah, I mean, every area did have people doing it. It's not like South Florida invented that, but it seems like South Florida just it became, you had to do that.
Right.
Once I guess I want to say the cat was out of the bag, or the word was on the street for the buying public, then yeah, you had to put that on the record. You can put whatever else you want on top as long as it's in the ballpark, but you had to have some subs on there doing something.
Yeah, the big bass drum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was
big
because
bass
of
drum.
clubs or
Some of everything. I mean, because of clubs, because of kids, you know, turning the radios up, turning the bass up and the treble down.
The cars. I
Cars.
think the cars had a lot
Yeah.
to do with it as well.
Then it
Like,
becomes the standard, because if you make the record that doesn't have the bass and you're trying to mix it with the records that do have the bass, you're gonna be lost in the sauce, so it kind of becomes the status quo. Like what, because back then, it was like, who's gonna have the hardest bass? I was like, oh, Debonaire just dropped that bass on some new low stuff. I gotta mix these two drum kicks together and find a way
Yeah.
to make it hit harder than this guy's bass is hitting.
Yeah, it was like a competitive thing with the bass.